We're live.
Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Overthrows podcast. I'm Behram Kazi, who you can find at Def Mango on Twitter, and with me, as always, is Jarrod Kimber, who you can find literally everywhere. And the premise of this particular Overthrows podcast is that Jarrod and I will be previewing England's upcoming three-match Test series in Pakistan, and we'll be talking all about it after the short ad. Let's go.
Hit Wicket is the cricket game backed by Harsha Bogle and me, so you know it's full of nerd energy. This strategic cricket game isn't just about frantic tapping. You make decisions based on how cricket actually works. You've got to set a batter up, right? And you can't hit a six from the first ball. Hit Wicket knows all that, and they made a game that makes it work with a few gaming twists in there as well. So play, build, and manage your team, because you are the batter, the bowler, the coach, the selector. I mean, you're basically everything in this game, right? And there's no ads on Hit Wicket. So download it for free for mobile and unleash your inner cricket legend.
All right, afternoon, guys, or well, it's afternoon for me, depending on wherever you are in the world. Hello. We've got Super Devil, Vignesh Ram, Dilly Billy, and yeah, that's everyone in the comments section. And it's an interesting series, Jarrod, in the sense that England are in their second iteration of Bazball. And they won 5 tests at home in this iteration, but then they lost to Sri Lanka at the Oval most recently. Pakistan, on the other hand, have gone 10 tests at home without a win. Their last home test victory came in February 2021 versus South Africa. And, that was what, 2.5 or 3.5 years ago. And exactly 2 years ago, they got swept by Stokes's Baz ballers at home 3-0, which was the first time they ever got swept in a test series at home. Quite the contrast, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. And last time there was all this kind of interest in this series because we didn't know Pakistan was this bad. And this time it's kind of like, the Women's World Cup is on, and India's got a bunch of tests, and there's is it Bangladesh South Africa test series that's coming up, which is quite interesting, or is it? I can't remember. There's a few interesting series coming up, and this one isn't one of them. But it's going to be fascinating again to see how England handle this, and also now Pakistan have been kicked in the nuts, right? Like they actually need to do something very, very different in the next little while.
Yeah, they definitely have their backs against the wall. But England, too, don't have the same team that they did back in 2022, because Jimmy Anderson and Ollie Robinson did extremely well in Pakistan in that series 2 years ago. They bent their backs. They were reverse swinging the ball like crazy. And since then, Jimmy has retired. And I don't even know what Ollie Robinson is up to these days. But barring, Chris Wokes, who also has an awful record away from England, right? The pace attack features Gus Atkinson, Potts, Bryden Cass, Ollie Stone, which is quite inexperienced. And that, I feel, might be one area that Pakistan could look to cash in.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because, as you said, they essentially they moved on from Anderson, and then Ollie Robinson, they moved on from him as well, and Broad retired. That was 1, 2, and 3 not that long ago. With obviously Jofra and Mark Wood, when fit, sort of fit into that rotation as well. But essentially, that was 1, 2, and 3, and they don't have any of them anymore. I think we know Gus Atkinson's very good. I think his numbers probably flatter him at the moment, but I don't think that means he's not a good bowler. I just think it means he got a little bit lucky at the start of his career. But yes, I can certainly see a situation there where there's something to exploit, and I suppose it's not the first time they've been to Asia, and you think maybe England's seam bowling is not, brilliantly placed. But when it comes down to it, it's a fascinating one, because we just haven't really seen them this raw since maybe when they just before Bazball, when they toured the West Indies, England, when they rested Anderson and Broad, and they had
the red ball reset series.
Yeah, was that Wokes and Saqib, and who else was the other seamers? I don't remember now. So yeah, I think that was the last time we saw something a bit like this, and that didn't go particularly well for them.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, with Wood, Mark Wood, of course, is out injured, and Jofra, they don't want to kind of risk him in Test cricket just yet. Probably want to
Yep.
save him from for the Ashes or something. And then poor Josh Hull also unfortunately injured himself in his debut Test. And I mean, I don't think that will matter much because he's played what 11 first-class games thus far in his very very short career. He was a quick whiz pick, but that pace attack looks fairly inexperienced, and none of those guys have really played in Pakistan. Wokes didn't do it last time. And
Yep.
Chris Wokes has something to prove over here as well because he is an England conditions bowler from whatever we've seen from him in his career thus far. And that, like, I feel like it doesn't really ensure his spot in the starting 11 just because, he's not as incisive away from home.
No, I think that's a really good way of putting it. We don't know 100% how he's going to go and what's going to happen from his perspective here. So I do think that is a fascinating one, right? Of just exactly where we are going here from this perspective of are we going to see Wokes finally work this out, or is it going to be more of what we've seen before, which is not particularly good?
Yeah. Even if you look at the spin bowling resources, like, look, Leach is back, which brings a lot of experience. He is probably the most experienced bowler after Chris Wokes over here. Well, not probably, he definitely is. And then he's got Rehan Ahmed with him, who also debuted in Pakistan 2 years ago and took a fifer on debut, if I remember correctly. And, then there is Stokes and McCullum's golden cricket's child, Shoaib Bashir. So, do you think they've missed a trick here by not selecting Tom Hartley, who, is a proper athlete, had success in India, and could have contributed with the bat over here as well? Because they don't have a spin bowling all-rounder anymore. There is no Moeen Ali.
Um,
And they also didn't select Dan Lawrence.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to count Joe Root in this.
He might have to be. To be honest, I don't know how Tom Hartley's bowling would go in Pakistan. I wouldn't have thought it would have been very suited to that kind of situation. And I would assume that's why you're seeing what you're seeing, right? Like they just went in India, it makes sense. Fast spinners in India make a lot more sense. Fast spinners in the UAE make a lot more sense. Whereas I'm not sure if they do on Pakistani wickets. So I think if somehow they lose test matches or anything like that, I don't think we should be in a situation where we're saying to ourselves it's because they didn't pick Tom Hartley. Because I really don't think he was going to have that much of an impact.
But the composition of the bowling attack will be very, very interesting over here because, of course, they'll want a few all-rounders in there. And Kars can also do a job. They need not select Wokes for sure. He can kind of bat. But then again, if the wicket is to take a bit of turn in Multan, do you go with 3 spinners? Right? Do you take that risk? I feel like that is going to be the biggest challenge for England here, reading the conditions or assessing the conditions before the first test and kind of selecting an 11. Because I don't even know if Pakistan properly know what sort of surface we're going to get over here.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting one, isn't it? And this is where, modern cricket's quite interesting because you can take as many people as you want in a squad now. There's no reason not to go back to your Tom Hartley point. There's no reason not to have Tom Hartley and I don't know, random seamers that you think might be good or specialist batters or whatever. But teams are still very much of that mindset of, this is the squad and this is the size of the squad and this is what we're doing. And actually, it probably makes a lot more sense to not do that, right? And to probably have like these bigger teams out there. So, yeah, I find that very, very interesting. Well, all things considered. So I would say that generally in Test cricket, more or less what the conditions are going to be like, and I think we're at a position now where we don't really know what the positions are going to be like. Just on the release sites here, I see Varun's put this up. So I watched Bashir and Leach play the other day. Or Somerset. I think Somerset were having to defend something like 150.
Haven't Somerset won everything in this last little while?
Yeah, and they were. I don't think they did defend that one, but I think don't they usually come second? But Somerset fans don't like that joke. But Bashir came on really, really late in that chase, and Leach came on really early. And Bashir bowled some great deliveries, but he bowled a lot of trash, right? And Leach just bowled quality delivery after quality delivery after quality delivery, right? You know, in and out, and put pressure on. I think he got the wicket. I didn't see Bashir get a wicket anyway. And I was just sitting there going, on Pakistani wickets, you don't want the guy who bowls the bad balls. On Pakistani wickets, what you really want is the guy that bowls the good balls, who's putting pressure on naturally himself, because those wickets can be quite flat. Now, we don't know that's going to be the case, and we don't know what the final situation will be, but it's an interesting situation to be in, because they've kind of moved on emotionally from Jack Leach in many ways. So yeah, I think it's an interesting squad.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what sort of starting 11 England pick, and I reckon they'll release it like a day before, because that's kind of been the England way, for a while now. As for the pitches, I feel like that discourse will dominate because we don't really have an idea. Now, last time England played Pakistan in Multan, the surface was a bit unprepared. If you remember, this was a really close test match, and the track got better to bat on as the game progressed, right? With every passing day. And in the end, Pakistan had to chase, 350 odd, and they fell 26 runs short. It was a terrific test match. It was probably the highlight of that entire tour, right? Apart from England, like, dangling the carrot and declaring and, winning in
the
Rawalpindi.
Rawalpindi test is the most important one. But yes, the Multan one was certainly the most fun.
Yeah. But I just don't see a reality in which they can even attempt to produce a green top in Multan. It is a city which gets a lot of sunlight. Surface will definitely get baked. And perhaps, maybe this time of the year, late October, they can pull it off in Rawalpindi, because historically that pitch always used to assist paces before it was flattened into a highway, right? But I don't think it's possible in Multan. I feel like they might be tempted to go that same route, slightly unprepared pitch, and it gets better to bat on, and you kind of throw in a second spinner in there. What do you reckon?
I suppose my question to you would be, what is the best wicket
to beat England in Pakistan? Look, I would say perhaps go down the spin route, but it's not like Pakistan have great spinners, right?
Yeah, I mean, it probably is a spin wicket, right? If we're being honest, because they're taking over Bashir and Rehan Ahmed, and I'd be like, okay, I think we can match that. We might not be able to match Jack Leach, but we could probably match this. Flat pitches don't help them, right? Because they're going to get they're going to get beat. Their bowls are going to get bashed around everywhere.
Flat pitches don't help anyone, right? Even the discourse, it dies. It's just bad news everywhere.
Well, I don't think the way that England play, I just don't think I don't think any team should play England on a flat pitch, because that allows them to play the way they want to play. Seam pitches are interesting, but it's not like the Pakistani seamers are flying anyway. So even if you say they can do it, can they actually do it? Do you know what I mean? So I think I don't know what the ideal pitch is for those kinds of situations, right? I don't know what they should be doing, but I would, if it was me, I'd be looking at two younger spinners, and I'd be like, look, if we can't beat them with spin, what have we got here? But the truth is that they don't. Maybe they can beat them with spin.
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million question, and I think I have no idea actually what the war plans are for this particular series, right? Because against Bangladesh, I expected them to, go a bit left field, and they did try to go left field, and they lost 2-0, right? But over here, with England, they are, they're under immense scrutiny. Pakistan haven't won a test match in 3.5 years. Their worst ever run in test cricket is 11 winless test matches, and they're about to equal it, right? Also, Varun is saying that Rehan's the most inconsistent when it comes to length amongst the spinners in the data we have. So yeah, I feel like they're going for those magic deliveries then perhaps with Rehan, and the fact that he's had success in Pakistan. But back to how they could potentially beat England, I feel like that's a question they're probably struggling to answer. And I don't think they're capable of producing a green top in Multan. It's either flat track or one that slightly turns, and you probably go for one that slightly turns. But the second spinner for Pakistan is a proper issue. Like, Noman Ali has had a few moments under the sun, but apart from that, he's been bang average. Zahid Mahmood was called up to the squad last minute, and he got hammered by England last time around. And then, of course, you've got Salman Ali Agha, who they've now found out cannot be their second spinner, right? So this is the knowledge that they have. And I saw someone mention Zafar Gohar in the messages over here. He was a slow left armer, very, very capable. Never really got game time. They played him in a test match in Christchurch, of all places. places and then never played him again. And he now plays for Gloucester. And he recently took 6 for 76 versus Sussex. So he probably would not want to go back to Pakistan. He has a stable income in England. Maybe you'll get to see him play for England at some point. But yeah, I feel like that is a major area for concern for Pakistan. That, okay, we produce a spin track, but then we're just looking at Abrar, and then who else kind of partners him?
Yeah, and I think the advantage of and I suppose this is what I said a couple of minutes ago, is you are going up against a couple of younger players. So I think there's you're not quite going up in a situation where there's no one. If I don't think you could do a spin track if Jack Leach was playing or Moeen Ali was playing, right? I think that would make sense. But Abrar and whoever else they pick. A little bit more there that can be said from that.
I mean, if you think about it, Abrar did take 11 wickets on test debut, also in Multan versus England. But then ever since that test match, he hasn't been amazing, right? People have kind of figured out how to play him. His fitness has been a concern. He hasn't gotten a lot of game time. Pakistan have just, made him warm the bench, really. He hasn't even played a lot of domestic cricket, which is, I don't even know who draws these plans out, but that is also an area of concern, and England will be better prepared versus him this time. So I feel like Pakistan's spin bowling resources aren't particularly up to the mark, and it comes down to the fact whether or not, Jarrod, they can take 20 wickets, right? That is the major concern. And sure, Shaheen and Naseem are fit, but Shaheen has taken his wickets at an average of 41 in his last 5 tests after injury. And then we saw him go 27.5 overs wicketless versus Bangladesh in the recent test. Naseem has been all right. But one thing that might encourage Pakistan is that Shaheen, Naseem and Abrar, that trio, has never really featured in a home test match before. I reckon they will feature in Multan. So maybe that can be one positive. But other than that, 20 wickets in a test match is a proper, it's the bane of Pakistan's home test cricket existence right now.
Yeah, and there's nothing that's coming up that's sort of suggesting that that's about to change or anything else. And we're not looking at this. We're not looking at this and thinking to ourselves that this is a situation where something's about to turn around, right? The only way that they take 20 wickets in these series is if England, they make it a little bit difficult for England, and England just keep pressing their foot down, right? They probably will take more wickets in this series than they normally will, just because England will give them wickets, right? England will try harder to give them wickets than other teams will. But yeah, it's none of this is ideal.
Yeah, Hamza Hussain in the comments is saying he agrees, and that's why a pace-friendly pitch needs to be made here. Hamza, I don't think you can make one in Multan. That's the thing. That's what I've been saying, right? It's extremely hot over there. We've seen what that sort of surface plays out, in the past. And sure, Rawalpindi, they could probably do that. We've seen in the last test match versus Bangladesh, it ended in 3 days or something. So perhaps I feel that they could go down, that route in Rawalpindi and maybe even play Amir Jamal, right? Because he is someone who provides a lot of balance. He can bat a bit and he's a proper workhorse. So they can go 3 seamers over there and play Amir Jamal. And if Shaheen doesn't perform in the first test or first 2 tests, then he will definitely get replaced by Mir Hamza. So that's the kind of reality you're looking at over here. And England are stronger now than they were versus the Sri Lanka in the series that just ended. Stokes and Crawley are back from injury. Joe Root is in the form of his life. Harry Brook, the last time he toured Pakistan, he scored 8 ton in every single test match. 3 tons on the bounce. And then you've got Jamie Smith, who's been a bit of a revelation at home. This is a very, very exciting batting lineup. I haven't even mentioned Duckett and Pope and the rest, right? So, Jarrod, how hard do you think they will baseball? That's the real question, isn't it?
I suppose again that comes down to the wickets, right? If they get really flat wickets, they're going to go nuts. They're coming here after having done that before, so it kind of makes sense for them to do that. But what it doesn't make really sense for them is to get so reckless that they lose the games. They're a better team than Pakistan. They don't need to. So there was a comment a minute ago that someone said, Pakistan needs to do rank turners. We've just discussed how they don't have any spinners, right?
Yeah.
So realistically, a lot of baseball comes from situations where England is not the better team or has a weakness that they need to overcome. What's their weakness against these kinds of sides, right? What's their weakness against Pakistan at the moment? So they should just play normal cricket, right? And
Hmm.
and use baseball when they have to. So maybe they use it with the opening batters, put some pressure on, then they bat normally in the middle, and then occasionally in the third innings they rebaz the ball, right?
Hmm.
That would be the smartest option for England. Unfortunately, if you're an English fan, you probably are going to say, well, they have not played the smartest option very often recently.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely be a thing. That's been a thing. And Crunk over here is saying that maybe Pakistan should use white ball skills, bowl wide Yorkers, and England are going to go hard regardless because they'll, get impatient. Look, I am expecting a bit of pragmatism, from Pakistan when it comes to the field settings and everything, because we saw what Pat Cummins did in the Ashes. I feel like that can be a good template for
Mm,
Pakistan. And some of those specific catching positions in the deep could help. And we've seen Shan manufacture a few wickets in Australia as well. But again, we don't really know what will happen and what sort of surface they're going to curate. My guess is that they're going to go down that same 2022 route in Multan, where they're going to leave it a bit unprepared. It's going to be a minefield first 2-3 days, and then it'll just get easier to bat on. And honestly, that kind of ensures a good palatable test match as well. And that is a concern in Pakistan. Sometimes, days 2, 3, 4 are just like you have to kind of force yourself in front of like the TV, or whether you're at the ground and you're falling asleep and you don't want to, and the game's got nothing in it, right? There are no wickets falling, and that is not fun for nobody, right? You want
mm.
an even balance between bat and ball. But funny thing about Pakistan, Jarrod, is that despite those surfaces, they still managed to lose games, right? Their batting still wasn't turning up, and their bowlers were getting outbowled by the opposition.
Mm.
If you look at that top four, Abdullah Shafiq had a prodigious start to his test career, and he's fallen off, right? I don't even know, like, in the last however many innings, the only good knock I can remember is the 50 in Australia, and he failed gloriously on that tour after. You look at Saim Ayub, and he's exciting, young, dynamic, exuberant, but has a knack of throwing away his wicket, right? He actually could have been part of Stokes' team. And then Shan Masood is averaging, 28 in Test cricket, and he's lost 5 consecutive Test matches as captain, which is also a record for Pakistan. He's going to be under pressure. Babar Azam hasn't scored a 50-plus score in, the last 16 innings that he's played in Test cricket. That top four is really, really struggling. They can't buy a run right now.
Yeah, and I think the bigger issue is their bowling. I don't think there's. I don't have any issue saying that out loud. I think the bigger issue is definitely their bowling. Having said that, they definitely do need to make consistent runs, right? And that's how you draw games. You look at that series against Australia. They made some runs and they drew some games, right? Like that is the difference. But when it comes down to it, I think the batting has been slightly under par, and I think the bowling has not existed. So, I don't want to be in a situation where we're having it's easy. Everyone has to go at the batters, and it's like it doesn't really matter if you don't take any wickets at all. What your batters do, really, you're not going to win Test matches. I suppose is the best way of putting that. So, look, it's we assume that Bubba is going to be slightly better, but we don't know how much better everyone is going to be, and I think there are still questions with that batting lineup. And to be honest, they have underperformed. It's just that there is another side of the cricket team that has underperformed so much worse that it's hard to really have a look at that. But you do factor in all those batting wickets, Behram, and you do think to yourself, guys, you probably should have made a few more runs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's really no explanation why the top four has failed as gloriously as they have. And as you said, the bowling has been non existent. One can only hope that Shaheen can somehow regain his mojo, right? Like I've talked to Azhar Mahmood about it. He says that there's an issue with the ball coming out of his wrist. Some people say it's his front leg. Maybe it's the toes, Jarrod. Maybe everything wrong with Pakistan cricket.
I thought
toes, right?
I just thought it was to do with his knee, and he's just not getting through the crease the way that he used to before. He just looks flatter.
Yeah, I mean, I think they never rehabilitated him properly after injury. I think that's the real issue over here. But, Naseem Shah is a glimmer of hope in all of this. And you can only hope that perhaps Shaheen, Naseem, and Abrar, if they find some form and they're playing together in a test match, maybe that can help help Pakistan take 20 wickets. There is one area of strength, though, that Pakistan have, right? The middle and lower middle order. You've got Saud Shakil, who is a terrific player of spin. And, he had a, dream start to his test career recently. He played his first 7 test matches and had a 50-plus score in each of them. He does struggle versus pace. We saw that versus Bangladesh. After getting a ton, he had 3 failures. But he's been someone who has done well for Pakistan. Mohammad Rizwan is also someone who never really lost form, if you think about it. And he's been Pakistan's man in crisis. So he will probably score runs as well. And then Salman Diagha in the lower middle order, he bats at 7. And he will consistently get you those 50s and 60s. Those 3 guys have been bailing Pakistan out. And I reckon that they'll have a major role to play in this series as well.
Yeah. One thing I think England have been very good at, and this team is going to be tested because you have 2 inexperienced spinners and you don't have the same kind of seam that we've seen before. But one thing they've been very good at is manufacturing wickets, right?
Yes.
They don't bowl dry. They even when they bowl dry, like what they did to us when Khawaja, they do it in this funky way. They're always trying to get you to be dismissed. And I know that sounds weird because you'd be like, well, that's what all test, and it's like, it hasn't always been what all test teams have done. They're trying to manufacture wickets, which they've got that from their ODI team, right? And that's the skill they brought over from the ODI team, and their ODI team was really good. Even now, sometimes they can manufacture wickets, despite the fact that their bowling's not very good in white ball cricket anymore. That means that the middle order against England, I think, is more important than it might be in some other series, because your top order might get 50s and 60s, but they'll find a way to neg them out. I mean, that's essentially what they do. They neg you out. You're not going to play the hook shot. Pretty soft, man. You're not going to sweep. You're not going to reverse sweep. There's a lot of that sort of stuff that goes on in the way that they set their fields, the way that they talk about cricket. They're playing on your ego. It very much is like those pickup artists from the early 2000s. Was Tom Cruise from Magnolia type of style of play. That's what they do. They poke the players and be like, probably could have hit that for 6. There's a lot of that sort of stuff going on, and so it's very important that you then have a middle order that can score as well. You don't just want your top order to be very good against England, because I think they'll find ways of manufacturing enough wickets throughout the day. Just through that, there'll be a couple of players that won't listen to any of that and it won't bother them, or they won't fall into the traps. And the only thing I would say that is in Pakistan's favor is that generally I think England's go-to is the short ball. And that's where they really struggled in India, where they're like, if India don't keep giving us wickets by running at our spinners and we can't bowl bouncers, where do we go? And so that is something that they're going to have to work out, England, a secondary skill to go with that. But I do think that this is a big part of the way that they are successful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to watching those 3 guys bat. I feel like Saud, Rizwan, and Salman Ali Agha are literally the backbone of this Pakistan side, because the top order have struggled so much. Also, there's a comment by Hamza Hussain over here, if you could bring that up, Varun. He's asking me that basically Multan had a pace-friendly pitch in the PSL when Muhammad Ali was so good. So a few things over here, Hamza. That is wintertime. So the surface isn't getting as baked at that point. And also, if you remember, it wasn't a fast track. It was a slow track in which his ball was kind of sticking in the surface. Now, we are totally,
that would be
I at least feel. Yeah. I feel.
Try baseball against that.
Yeah. That's what I think they should do. Go a bit unprepared with the surface so that at least the first 2 innings don't yield a lot of runs. And that way you could potentially win a test match, right? Maybe I'm wrong about all of this, Hamza. Maybe they can produce a fast track in Multan. I'm not Tony Hemming, right? That guy knows far more than me. So let's see how that pans out. And I suppose there's not. But
I mean,
much
again,
else.
do you want a fast track? Do you want a single track? I kind of wonder. No one's really done this against England, but the old Port Elizabeth wickets. Sorry, it's not Port Elizabeth anymore.
Yeah, what's the new name? Yeah,
Burka. I didn't get that right. I have got it right occasionally, but that one wasn't right. That was just me clicking my tongue and then saying Burka, I think, at the end. But we have seen at times those sorts of wickets where the ball just sort of sticks in them and nothing happens. I'm trying to think. There's some other ones. We've seen some in Bangladesh, of course, as well. Good luck playing your shots on those kinds of wickets, right? Guyana kind of wicket.
Yeah.
I don't know how you just play the way that England want to play on some of those wickets. That
Pakistan could easily play on those kind of wickets, right? They'll just block it out.
So that could be an interesting surface. But again, how easy is it to make that that in that place. As you said, it was winter last time, and you've all those things have to be factored in. But I think there are fascinating ways of going about it. Whether that helps Pakistan or not, I don't know. But I would love to see England on one like a proper, I don't know if you call it sticky, but like a wicket that is genuinely slow. One of those old-fashioned wickets that it's hard to get a wicket on and hard to score on, right?
Yeah.
Where like the end of day one, the team's like 230 for 3, and everyone's like, "What the hell happened?"
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that could be a potential, option for Pakistan if they can manage that. I feel like here's the grim reality, or at least my hunch is that they're going to try something, but because of the heat, it's going to be a flat track. And England can force a result on a flat track. They've shown exactly that to us in their last tour. Also, seeing some questions over here about the broadcasters. Sky's in. They've signed a last minute deal, probably at a discount, I would assume, and we're going to get some quality coverage, thank God.
Yes, I mean, I would assume that they're probably not going to go all in on the production because it's been so last minute. But yes, look, we've talked about that on a previous episode.
Yeah.
It's not good enough, but unfortunately, it's how too much of these things go.
Yeah. I mean, at least we get the Sky team in Pakistan, right? Because if they didn't, then that would be a major, major disappointment. But anyway,
only you're like a fanboy for the Sky team.
I am a fanboy for the Sky team. I love those guys. All right, so we started doing this last time, Jarrod, Estelle, and I. For every preview. You've missed the last couple of previews, but we do a bunch of
and miss all of them. I didn't know this was a preview. I would have said no. I would have got Estelle to interview you about the series. What do I care?
Yeah, well, Estelle is busy with the
watching
women's
Scotland,
game.
Bangladesh here. Like,
yeah. I've got crick info on as well. I was watching, I watched the power play. It looks like an exciting game, but anyway, we do this little prediction segment in the end. First, let's just do scoreline. I'm going to give Pakistan a test match over here. I feel like something's got to give, and they will at least break that streak. So 2-1 England.
So much has to go right for England to lose a test, for Pakistan to win it, I should say. I would say 2-0 is more likely.
All right. So who do you think will be?
Did I get that right? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, you're just supposed to give your prediction. And now we're going to do top run scorer of the series. I am going to go with Ben Duckett.
It should be Zach Crawley.
Yeah, he loves to play Pakistan.
But the problem with Zach Crawley is he goes out for 70 all the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to pick him as the top run scorer. But I would say the kinds of pitches they have there, it should be Zach Crawley.
Yeah, I feel Ben Duckett is just in such a rich vein of form, and he does well in Pakistan.
I give you that.
Why.
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't have any issue there. I mean, Joe Root's probably the best answer anyway.
I mean, Joe Root would have been the safest choice, but he's got to have some sort of dip, right? At some point. He didn't do too well in Pakistan last time when everyone scored runs. That's worth noting. And I mean, Jamie Smith is around as well. Someone's mentioned his name as well. Harry Brook. Yeah, it could be any of those guys. It's a prediction, people. So he's gone Crawley. I've gone Duckett. Highest wicket taker of the series.
Jeez, that's a tough one in this series, isn't it? Abra?
Interesting. I'm going to go... My God, I'm actually going to go Shoaib Bashir because I feel like Pakistan have a penchant of making heroes out of people. And Bash will be like the golden child at the end of the series.
I mean, he's probably going to take 1 or 2 fifers just because something stupid's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just feel like, I'm not sure. I just think Abra's going to bowl 40% of the overs. Unless we see really, really fast bowling pitches, I just think they're just going to lean on him to bowl too much. Am I wrong? Is that
you're basically saying he'll Prabhat Jayasuriya it. Right?
That's kind of what I was thinking. That you say we've got one guy who can bowl 40% of the overs, and then we can just rotate at the other end and try and do something at the other end. That's kind of how I look at it. I mean, it may not work out that way. He may bowl crap, whatever, but that's kind of how I've looked at it so far.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's solid rationale. And you guys let us know your predictions in the comments as well. Scoreline, top run scorer, and top wicket taker. Let's take the super chats before we end this podcast, Jarrod. We've got Dal Khichdi up front. He asks, or she asks, having Imam do his usual tuk-tuk could actually help Pakistan keep that inexperienced bowling attack in the heat for long. Imam is not in the squad, Dal Khichdi. Mohamed Herrera is in the squad ahead of him, and Saim Ayub is the other opener along with Abdullah Shafiq.
Yeah, but I mean, he might know that as well, or they might know that as well. But I think the point that they're making is that kind of player could be quite handy in this situation, which I kind of agree with, right? Like that does make sense.
If it is like blistering heat in Multan, maybe use that against England. But then again, it's not like Pakistan's players are like aliens or something. They will also be tired in the heat and get dehydrated. But anyway, there's one more super chat, I believe, and that is from Sankit Shirsekar. He says, following Jarrod from the time of cricket with balls, I think the time has come for the mainstream to know about his awesomeness. Behram growing is also great to see. Talk Sport is in parentheses. Long may this continue. Well, thank you, Sankit. I mean,
I worked at the world's biggest cricket website for 10 years as their senior global writer. I don't know how much more mainstream I need to be. I
mean, Good Areas has gotten more mainstream, that's for sure. Like, we've seen the numbers, and it's been really good for us this year. Hopefully that continues. And it's all thanks to you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, no, look, it's a much bigger thing than when it started. So it's certainly a part of that just comes down to the fact that, we've put out a lot of effort in, but the audience really, really likes it, and we're going to keep going and keep adding to it. And obviously we've got the Hindi channel, and we will have Urdu channels and Tamil channels and all sorts of things if we can make the Hindi channel work into the future. And we're just going to keep adding to things. We've got new shows that we keep coming up with all the time, and new variations of things. So there's plenty more to come. So if you like Good Areas, thank you very much. And thank you very much. See, the mainstream thing for me is, it's an interesting one, because I could have in 2020 probably gone off and got a job somewhere else, right? There's an element of like, I've done that. I did it for ESPN, and it was great and frustrating at times, but certainly a great experience that I would never give back. But there is just an element of, I now get to do what I want, and we get to build the system that we want. And Behram gets to help building it. Estelle and CS and Cheyenne and Varun and, obviously Muku and Ishit, all these different people who work for us get to add on to this thing that we do now. And it keeps getting bigger and better the longer that we go. It's like the mainstream's fine, and we will get those offers. And we do get those offers, right? I'm making a documentary for Channel 9 at the moment. If you want mainstream, that's pretty mainstream. Behram's now on Talk Sport, right? And he's done some BBC stuff. And obviously I'm on Talk Sport a lot. The mainstream's there. This is our chance to actually make what we want. And that's a big difference. And so thank you especially to the people on Patreon. Like, we don't thank them enough, but the people on Patreon allowed us to build this network in the first place. And I know a lot of those people have probably moved on, and there are new people from Patreon, but the people over the first 2, 3, 4 years, that's the reason that Good Areas exists. That's why we are here right now. And, huge thanks to everyone who's ever supported us with a super chat, like the last person just did, or anyone on Patreon, because that's the core of this is we're making content for fans. It's great when advertisers come along and give us a big check. It's great when YouTube ads, we get a viral video and we get extra money. All those things are great. But the most consistent money that we have ever made on this channel is from the fans. And it's because we make something that no one else does. We're not trying to be the mainstream. We're trying to be Good Areas.
Yeah, we're trying to be the best cricket coverage platform. And I hope that, it just continues to grow. And thank you to everyone in the comments. Of course, even for those of you guys who haven't been paid subscribers, you also have a role to play.
Yeah,
you are giving us views.
It's a fair point. I know everyone can't afford it. I can't always afford to subscribe to all the people that I want to subscribe to. Every comment, every like, every share, every subscription, all of those things actually add to Good Areas.
Yep.
And this isn't just about us. If there's some small blog that you like, or some random Twitter account or whatever, you can support them by sharing, by subscribing, by liking, and all of those things to their content. This is the algorithmic world that we live in. You can actually now, unlike in the old days, if there was a TV show on, it just didn't really matter what you said about the TV, what about the TV show, because you probably weren't in a house that had the little box at the top for ratings, right? Everyone has the ratings box now. You make the decisions on what you like. So when you find someone that you like, support them.
Yeah, there's a really cool YouTube channel in Pakistan called Pro Sports. You should check that one
No, I've
out
never
as
heard
well.
of it.
Anyway, thank
Sounds
you
like
to
it's
everyone
run
who
by
sent us.
idiots.
Yeah. Thanks for all the super chats as well, guys, and for tuning in. Just a quick reminder, you can go to goodareas.co and bookmark that webpage. It can prove to be your one-stop shop for all the work that we do as part of this team, whether it be written content, videos, or podcasts. We'll see you soon enough on another live, or there'll be a Footmarks or a Quick Picks or a Red Inker or a Wagon Wheel. You'll have content non-stop. That's a promise. Have a good one for now, and goodbye.
Thanks to MV Play, I was able to make this. Their advanced technology can help any cricket team elevate their skills and performance.